tells you, and is the case in all of our properties, that if you have a building mostly full of students, not a lot of other people are going to want to live there. But we have had one out of the 18 properties that we developed that did not fill with students. That building flipped, turned into a market rate property, and has been full ever since with market rate renters. And we just recently sold that property because it doesn't fit our business model. We're in the student housing business.
So when you flipped it, it became an apartment building?
That's correct. I mean, this is an apartment building. I know everybody talks about dorms, but, and I don't know if any of the commissioners have spent a lot of time looking at the floor plans, but these are apartments. They're very nice apartments, in fact, that happen to house students. They're not anything like the dorms you might think of from when you were in school, or the dorms that were built at one time here on campus. But these are very nice apartments, individual bedrooms, individual bathrooms, and those types of things. So they also make for nice apartments that aren't occupied by students.
If you had a mix, how do you handle people who are not students? You know, they're not. They may be completely different kinds of people.
So how to handle them from what respect?
Well, from the respect of, do you have any way to kind of isolate them from the students?
Well, normally in that case, it's very rare. In fact, I can't think of any instances today where any of our properties are housing other than students. We sold that property. But that particular property that I referenced, when it was a 60-40 split, 60% market rate renters and 40% student renters, we segregated them in the building. That property, just like this property, has full-time management. Obviously, market rate renters are managed differently than students. Managing students in housing like this has a lot more to do with the programming and the interaction with campus, and bringing student life into the environment, which is what we do. Putting market rate renters in there acts as a plan B, so in order to maintain the high occupancy level that we anticipate in that building. But again, it's a remote plan B, because the studies have been done here, and there's a high level of confidence that this building is going to be full of students.
But you can't guarantee that.
Of course not. I can't guarantee that anywhere. But I can tell you, out of 14 properties we've built from the ground up, a 15th property that we own, and 3 additional properties that we manage for college campuses, we run a 95% or higher occupancy, and we have had since we've been in this business since 2007. We don't take these developments lightly. We're not a big company. We don't have millions of dollars laying around to make mistakes. Very thorough feasibility was done in this community and with the campus, and through working with the campus, talking to the students, understanding what the needs were, we developed a property that had the right mix of beds and the right quantity of beds to support those needs. Nothing more, nothing less.
Excuse me, but this information I have right here was given to me prior to this meeting. That would have been Friday evening. I asked about the parking. And you tell me this site plan that's sitting in front of me, I'm looking at, is a lot bigger than this. Has 98 or 99 parking spaces on it.
Including the 2 ancillary parking lots, that's correct.
But this piece of paper that I was given with all this, now I'm sorry I can't count them because I can't read them, so this is my fault. I should have counted them before what I'm about to say. But according to this, site plan provided 99. Spaces removed was from West Star, AT&T took 2, fire department access took 15, dumpster location took 2, which lost total spaces of 23. So you're telling me
It's all dated information.
Commissioner, I believe that was from the Planning Commission's information. That's what they had in front of them when they made their decision. And then they revised the site plan after that was done.
Could you expound on that you meet parking requirements with ancillary parking?
Yeah, if you notice on the site plan that's in front of you there, there's a parking lot here and a parking lot down there. There are also properties we acquired and that will be used for parking, additional parking.
So this would require a house on the corner of 15th and the Royal Bay. The parking's there, and the other one then.
There's a bare lot that's
Oh, okay. Okay, I see.
That lot to the, I believe it's the north of the property, or the west of the property, where you said that you have that ancillary lot. Is there a house on that right now?
You're talking this one?
Right.
Yes.
Do you actually own the property?
We have it under contract.
Okay, so you have an option on it.
That's where they got, okay. And just in case the question is asked, I don't believe they would need a zoning change to put a parking lot there. Is that correct, Martha? That particular property would be zoned okay for the parking lot.
That's correct.
What about the piece down here at the corner of Broadway and 14th Street? Is it zoned correctly?
Martha, is there, because it's just gonna be used for parking, is that zoning gonna be an issue for the lot the college owns there to the south?
No, not zoning.
Okay.
One of the, since you county, you don't actually own it.
Correct, we own it under contract. We didn't want to buy it if it wasn't necessary.
Wise.
Any other questions?
If you're done with questions for Bluffstone, we can proceed to let the public have comments, if that's what you want to do. And of course, if you think of some questions later, you can always ask.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll go ahead, since we have a written letter from Leroy Burke, this will count for his 2 minutes, obviously, unless Leroy, do you want?
No, go ahead. I think
Okay.
you can handle the phone.
I'll just read that real quick, is that okay? Go ahead.
Let's let Debbie address the,
I just wanted to take a moment to address the frustration surrounding this project on behalf of the city staff. City staff has been working diligently with the developer since the application rezoning was filed in December. We realize that this is a controversial topic. The developer, Levette Community College, the neighbors, and the city of Parsons, and our residents may never be in total agreement. But with that said, we know the developers have been looking out for the safety of the students and the future employees of this facility. But I ask that you acknowledge, as city staff, we do not take our jobs lightly. We have not been making the rules as we go along in this process. The guidelines that we must follow for development have been in place for many years through the International Building Codes and through the City of Parsons zoning regulations. We appreciate you giving us a chance to speak. Thank you.
Or I can read the letter later, I'll do that.
you can read it now. We'll
Okay.
open it up to public comment. Remember, it's 2 minutes, and please, only if you have something new to add.
Do you want me to read just the number of paragraphs, Leroy, is that okay? You want?
Just,
Oh,
if you'll read the whole thing.
Okay.
Makes-
It is our Parsons City Commission's task to address and consider all of the facts and, along with the Planning Commission, render a decision. It was Bluffstone's responsibility to have had all zoning issues completed and intact. A, before Levette County Community College Foundation transferred college property to Bluffstone, and B, before Bluffstone purchased additional properties for their project and started excavation. It is not the City of Parsons' responsibility or duty to grant rezoning for this project. A, because Levette Community College Foundation transferred college property to Bluffstone, or B, because Bluffstone purchased additional properties for their projects and started excavation. Number one, as a certified general appraiser and a former Levette County appraiser, I state that if this 4-story housing complex, pending the rezoning, is constructed in this residential neighborhood with the older, beautiful, nostalgic homes and also the gorgeous 2-story homes at Parsons, it will degrade the integrity of this neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods. 2, rezoning for this 4-story dormitory will have a definite negative effect on the property value in this residential neighborhood and already has had a proven grave negative effect on the resale value, property located at 1510 Broadway. 3, in Levette Community College President George Knox's own words in his newspaper article of this past Saturday, Sunday with the Parsons Sun, he stated that if the college campus could have been relocated, this would have given the college room to expand without infringing on any residential neighborhoods Thus, he is stating that rezoning is indeed an infringement on these residential neighborhoods. 4, enrollment is a big concern. Per the article of March 14th of 2015, in the Parsons Sun Labette Community College states that college-wide enrollment is down 10% from last year. Decrease in enrollment of 50 students, and the students are taking less credit hours. College concerns: cuts in funding, decrease in enrollment due to unemployment, and the elimination of incentive programs for going back to school. 5, the Parsons Fire Chief addressed their concerns and their mandates. Safety is a huge issue. 6, this residential neighborhood for the housing complex construction will decrease valuation not only of this particular neighborhood, but also in the surrounding neighborhoods. This decrease in property valuation will be significant. This loss of valuation will have a direct impact on the taxpayers of Parsons and the taxpayers of all cities in Labette County who will bear the responsibility and tax burden in the end. That's it.
With that, I will open it up, public comment. Please step to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 2 minutes.
Jim Newbridge, 14635 20th Road. My question, and I've been out of the fire service for a few years, it used to be when you contested in a motel or something, the state fire marshal had to sign off on it. And Kevin, you probably remember the Super 8 was built. They did not follow the state fire marshal's deal. And remember when they came down here and shut them down?
Yep.
Told the contractor to leave and not come back until they did what the fire marshal said? So my question is, doesn't the state fire marshal still have to sign off on a housing deal like that? Jay, do you know?
I do not know for sure if they still sign off on everything. However, we do go through them to get their interpretation of the code, which they have to enforce all over the state, so.
Well,
Just for information, that's Jay Hobbs, the fire chief of Parsons.
no, you know, he's saying their engineer does, interprets it, but just like you said, he's working for them. You know, the state fire marshal has authority. It used to be over so many apartments or so many rooms or something. They had to sign off on it, so.
I think that's what's really gonna happen here. The state fire marshal sometime Tuesday or a little later is gonna say yea or nay.
If the state fire marshal has to sign off, that will be during the construction process and when they get their building permit. So I don't think that would necessarily affect us tonight, other than, again, the effect on parking that it might have. But as far as if there has to be sign off on that, I would assume would come at a different time. I know Rick's here, he might be able to address that.
I'm not sure on R2, like, what the number of apartments would trigger the fire.
Hey, I'm Joe Dobson, 1241 Dirt. I'm just curious, what's the deal with the parking? Is it so they can get a fire truck up beside the building? Is that what the holdup is?
Yes.
That is it?
Fire put on bid.
They have to get along one long side of the building, and that was the revision that was given to us at the last planning commission. They didn't meet those requirements.
What happens when it's say that the occupancy rates falls below 84 and they put market rate renters in there? What happens at the start of the school year when students show up and there's a glut of students? Do them guys get the heave-ho or? I was kind of curious about that, and will it be set up for?
We have no idea.
Right, I'm just putting it out there. And will it be set up for just single people to live in? Somebody with a child could move in there, or is it all gonna be single occupants? That was my big curiosity. That's why I would like to ask him questions while he was up there, that's why.
Okay.
How is that gonna be?
Would you like to address that?
I'm sorry, which question?
Like, if you've got students in there, and if you've got market rate renters out there, and students come back and flood the place and want to move into the market rate people.
I think there's a misconception about what the occupancy means. We're talking about an annual occupancy, an average annual occupancy. We're not concerned about keeping that building full during the summer, because we're looking at an annual occupancy rate Most of these students are gonna sign 10-month leases, which coincide with the school year. There will be ancillary renters during that period, but they're gonna be involved in special programs at the school and things like that. And if that building runs 30, 40, 50% occupancy during the summer, that's already built into our plans, and it doesn't invoke any sort of occupancy guarantee by the school.
If students show up, if there's more students show up than there is rooms, that's what I'm getting at.
And they'll have to live elsewhere. Yeah, we'll have leases signed with anybody that's living there.
And you said that students will have to live elsewhere if you have market renters?
First of all, we're gonna lease to students primarily.
Right.
If, by the time summer rolls around and the students have moved out, or the majority of the students have moved out, we're not actively looking to put anybody else in that building.
Right.
Because we've already long established the fall relationship with those students. Those students are looking for housing, usually by the time they're moving out of housing for the beginning of the summer.
What about, is it, if it is market rate people in there, will it be, you reckon it'd be single, is that who's gonna be looking for it? Single?
I have no idea, honestly.
It's not set up for family living, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, right?
I guess if you could, a small family could live in a 2-bedroom, I suppose, but I don't know who would want to have their family living around a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds, so.
Did you say there's kitchen facilities or?
There is.
All right, that's all.
Raven Martinez, 1101 North 26th Street. First off, just on that last comment that he just made, that, a small family could live in there. During the planning commission meeting that was actually asked of who all will be occupying the building, and Mrs. Kelly Young specifically stated that if somebody had only single students of Quebec Community College would be allowed to live within this building. She stated that very clearly, and you can go back to the minutes and read that yourself. Also, then, just as Mr. Burke is stating in his letter, it's not the city's job to make sure that they get their crap together before they actually, in order for them to make their contract. They're the ones that went out, made a contract that they was gonna have it ready to go August of 2015. If that doesn't happen, that's on their back, because when they came to the very first planning commission meeting, which I was in attendance at, Mrs. Kelly Young came there completely unprepared. At that time, the planning commission actually had to table the matter because because she did not even have any of the plans or the paper or documentation that was required to even submit a request to the city for a zoning change. Then as far as the zoning itself, this property, it's across the street from single-family residential homes. The street at this site are 2-lane roads with on-street parking as well, so it will not fit into the character of the neighborhood. As far as zoning and uses of properties nearby, properties to the north is zoned R1 single-family residential and are used as such. Property to the south is zoned R1 residential, residential, and is used as such. Property to the east is zoned R1. Schools are a complementary use of residential areas, but private apartment buildings are not, whether for students or not. And then about the fire code thing, according to Article 5, Section 100, off-street parking of the zoning regulations of the city of Parsons, Kansas, plans showing the layout and design of all off-street parking spaces and loading areas must be submitted and approved by the zoning administrator before a zoning permit is issued for such spaces or areas. If the plan for their parking is contingent upon whether or not the fire marshal, how his interpretation is, then at this time, you cannot actually approve a zoning permit for them because they have not given you an accurate plan that shows and has been signed off on with the parking.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I just have that. My name's Margie Hanson, I live at 1200 Morgan in Parsons. And years ago, when I delivered mail there on the 1400 block of Broadway, there were 2 houses they've since been torn down that had 4 apartments in each one. So was the zoning different then when the houses were torn down?
I have asked that question too, Mark. I'll let Mark address that.
That would be a non-conforming use that was in existence at that time. When the houses are tore down, then it reverts to R1.
Oh, I see. Okay, well,